Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Underhive Wars. This is a series of Necromunda battle reports for our Sector 7 Dominion campaign, and this is battle report number 24. It is fought between my two friends, Scream of the Emo as well as Brother Grimm. Scream of the Emo is bringing the red faction with the Genestealer Cults, and Brother Grimm is bringing the Pelago-Slam Kings of House Goliath. Both of these gangs will be throwing it down on a Border Skirmish scenario, so without any further ado, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what the gangs are bringing for this one, go ahead and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, let's get this battle report on the roll. Alright, the scenario for this one is Border Dispute. The objective is to secure your turf and to defile the other gang's relic. So the objective here is to move across the battlefield as quickly as you can, destroy the other gang's relic, and hopefully protect yours in return. For the rewards on this one, if you manage to win the scenario, you earn D6 times 10 credits to the gang whose relic wasn't defiled. Otherwise, if both your relics were defiled, you earn D3 times 10 credits. You also earn 1 point of experience for each participant, as well as 1 experience point for the winning gang leader. For reputation, you earn 1 point of reputation for each gang fighting each other for the very first time, so both the red faction as well as the Pelago-Slam Kings will earn that. Also, a gang whose relic was defiled loses 2 points reputation, while the gang who did that earned 2 points. And anyone who bottles out, of course, also suffers 1 point of reputation as well. So with the scenario rules over, let's go and talk about the deployment as well as the battle plan for this one. Alright, so here's an overhead shot of the entirety of the battlefield. My friends are playing on a 4x4 table. Scream of the Emo is deployed on the near side of the table, while my other buddy, Brother Grimm, is deployed on the far side of the table. As you can see, we have 2 leaders right in the smack dab on the top of the metro terminal. In this scenario, what ends up happening is that you randomly get chosen one of your gang members to be right in the middle of the deployment area. And it's supposed to represent that these 2 gang members kind of bumped into each other, started a fight, and then started hostilities and causing a larger skirmish to take place. In this case, though, however, when my friends, where they randomly drew which character of their rosters would end up being in the center, end up being the leaders for both sides. Scream of the Emo drew out Obed Marsh, he's the leader of the red faction, and then my other friend Brother Grimm also randomly drew by accident Blitzkrieg Bob, who is the leader of the Pelago-Slam Kings. So the both of them are facing off right smack dab in the middle of the table against each other. And of course their gangs are arrayed accordingly with their relics in their own deployment areas, and they gotta defend as well as try to destroy the other person's relic. Now what the battle plan is on this one, I'm not really sure about because my friends are playing on this one. However, I will mention that the red faction is fighting at half strength on this one. Their last battle report was against my gang, which was the Jury of House Caldor, and my guys kind of took it to them bad. So about half of the gang for the red faction is not present for this battle report because most of them are trying to recover from the serious injuries that my gang put on them the last time, while the Pelago-Slam Kings for the most part are pretty much at full strength. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about deployment real quick. Alright, so starting right here in the middle of the red faction, we have our 2 gang leaders facing off against each other. The guy on the near side, his name is Obed Marsh. He's a cult alpha. He's got a hazard suit, autogun, 3 stub guns armed with dum-dum bullets. He's also got a respirator. He's got the commanding presence as well as the gunfighter skills, and he's also got a 3rd arm as well. Facing off against him, that is Blitzkrieg Bob. He's the leader of the Pelago-Slam Kings. He's got a furnace plate, grenade launcher with frag, as well as crack grenades, as well as a brute cleaver, and he has the commanding presence ability. So these 2 gang leaders will be throwing it off right off the bat because they're right smack dab in the middle of the battlefield. Alright, so starting off with the left-hand deployment for the red faction. On the far left-hand side, that is a hybrid acolyte named Cybin Black. He's got a hazard suit, auto gun, auto pistol, fighting knife, respirator, as well as a cult icon. He's also got a berserker skill. He's also got a 3rd arm as well. Right in front of him, that is Innsmouth. He is a neophyte hybrid. He's got a chainsword, auto gun, as well as an auto pistol. Right next to him is the new guy. Johansson's his name. He's got a respirator, a hazard suit, as well as an auto gun, and an auto pistol. He's also got a 3rd arm as well. And then right behind him, that is Pikmin. He's another neophyte hybrid. He's got a power pick, an auto gun, as well as an auto pistol. And that makes a deployment here on the left-hand side for the red faction. And on the right hand side, that is Artemage. He's another neophyte hybrid. He's got a respirator, auto pistol, hazard suit, as well as a mining laser. And he's also got a third arm as well. And he's watching over their relic, which is in the second floor of the Clark's department store, Alexander's department store, right here on the top floor with him. And he's pretty much protecting on that one. So with the deployment for the red faction over with, we move on directly to the Pelago-Slam Kings. Alright, so starting with the Pelago-Slam Kings, over on the left-hand side is a 4-man fire team. In the back of that we have Porter, as well as, on the right-hand side, that's Porter and Gage. They're both gangers with furnace plates, bolt guns, as well as stub guns with dum-dum rounds. Next on the left-hand side, that is Flesh Stick. He's a ganger's armed with furnace plate, a renderizer, stub gun with dum-dum bullets, as well as a stim slug stash. Behind him is Rager, who's another ganger's armed with a shotgun with solid, as well as scatter shot, as well as a brute cleaver. And then also leading this group are two Juvies. We got Stuka. He's armed with stub gun, dum-dum rounds, as well as a maul. And then we have Trip the Shrimp, who's armed with a stub cannon, a stub gun, as well as dum-dum rounds and a maul. Now, if you guys also notice, Whack-A-Mole is also missing on this one, and that's because he's still recovering from a head injury that he suffered in the last combat round. And finally, center of the deployment area with our gang relic located on the top of the triple-decker tower. Those are the last two members of the gang for the Pelago-Slam Kings. On the left-hand side, that is Grizz. He's a champion. He's got furnace plate, heavy stubber, stub gun, as well as suspenser on his heavy stubber. And then right next to him is the headhunter, who's armed with a furnace plate, blast gun, as well as an axe. And that pretty much makes up the deployment for the Pelago-Slam Kings. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both Scream of the Emo as well as Brother Grimm roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so we go directly to the top of turn number 1 for the Genestealer Cults, and my friend Scream of the Emo activates his gang leader Obed Marsh, who charges directly into Blitzkrieg Bob. Now, he does have 3 attacks as base, but because he also charged and also has sidearms, he actually gets a grand total of 5 attacks. Now, normally against any other gang, this would not be a problem. However, he is taking on the Pelago-Slam Kings, and these guys are Goliaths, and Blitzkrieg Bob has a toughness of 5. I think he's also got 2 or 3 wounds as well. Let me take a look at his sheet real quick. He's actually got 2 wounds. He's also toughness 5 as well. So because of that guy was not an easy person to take down. In fact, all of his attacks failed. He did hit with all 5 of his attacks, but all 4 attacks failed to wound because he had a 5 up in order to hurt him, and Blitzkrieg Bob just kind of laughs in his face about it when it's all said and done. So, jumping back over for my friend Brother Grimm, he then activates Trip the Shrimp, who actually does a double movement forward in order to get closer range, so that way he can open up with a stub gun. He's also using him as bait as well to draw fire from the red faction. Meanwhile, the red faction also activates next with Cybin Black, and because he's carrying a cult icon, he actually activates 2 fighters at the same time. So because of that, he does a double move with Cybin Black over the right-hand side, making his way to the MCI Metro Terminal in order to climb to the top floor to help out his leader. At the same time, he also sends Johansson, who's the brand new member of the gang. He sends to the left-hand side, has him actually pop a shot off with his auto gun, but unfortunately for him, he misses. At the same time, he also, I think, maneuvers Innsmouth a little bit to the right as well, so that way he can take some cover and intercept any Pelago-Slam Kings coming his way. Meanwhile, across the battlefield, the Pelago-Slam Kings then activate Grizz as well as the Headhunter, and both of them actually try to take long-range shots, shooting across the battlefield to the Clark's Alexander's department store, which is the bottom right-hand corner, where Artemage, the ganger who's armed with a mining laser, is located at. They actually try to shoot that guy through the opening in the Alexander's department store in order to take him out, so that way they can leave the relic empty. Unfortunately for them, though, because they're firing at such long ranges and over to a small access point, they both miss their shots. Meanwhile, Pikmin is then activated, does a double movement right behind Cybin Black in order to lend some support to make their way up to the top of the tower to save their leader Obed Marsh from this combat with Blitzkrieg Bob. And at the same time, Stuka's his name. He actually does a double movement forward as well to team up with Trip the Shrimp, so that way they can draw fire as Juvies away from the gangers behind them. And then Innsmouth also gets activated as well. He does a double movement right behind the ambulance there on the left-hand side to take cover, and also to intercept the Pelago-Slam Kings who are assaulting from the left-hand side. Meanwhile, on the roof of the Metro Terminal, Blitzkrieg Bob does attack Obed Marsh. In the end, he managed to get a 6 off on one of his attacks, so because of that, Obed Marsh is now fighting unarmed. He lost all 3 of his stub guns from fighting against Blitzkrieg Bob because of the Brute Cleaver. If you get a 6 on one of the hits or the wounds, you actually get to disarm your opponent. Now, that's not much of a problem for Obed Marsh, because Obed Marsh does have a 3rd arm, which has rending from one of his attacks as well. Also gives him +1 to his damage as well, so because of that, it's not much of a big problem for him. However, what is a problem, though, is that Blitzkrieg Bob, when he attacks against Obed Marsh, he actually blows through both the wounds that character actually carries, and it actually puts a flesh wound on him as well. So because of that, Obed Marsh is now easier to wound against, which is even a bigger problem because this Goliath leader has a strength of 4 with a Blue Cleaver, which means he's attacking at strength 5 the entire time. So things are not looking very good for Obed Marsh at this point. And for the rest of the turn, because most of it's pretty much dedicated to Pelago-Slam Kings for the most part, I'll just kind of glaze over what ended up happening. Both Rager as well as what's his name, Flesh Stick, they both take double movements to fall right behind Trip the Shrimp as well as Stuka. At the same time, though, he also activates Porter Engage. Brother Grim moves them up their normal new movement allowance of 4 inches, having open fire with their bolt guns. One tries to open fire onto Pikmin, the other one tries to open fire onto Innsmouth. Now, the one who tries to open fire on Pikmin, he actually misses his shot. But unfortunately for him, though, he also got an ammo roll check on that one, so he has to spend another turn to clear his rounds. Meanwhile, the other shot from the other one heading towards Innsmouth was successfully managed to hit his target. So while Porter actually does manage to hit Innsmouth, he does fail to wound him, though, so because that Innsmouth is laying face up, he's currently pinned at this current moment because he got hit, but not wounded. And that pretty much ends up the action phase for this one. And since nobody is injured, there's no reason for an end phase, so that takes directly to the end of the turn. Alright, so here's a photograph at the end of turn number 1. As you can see, the Pelago-Slam Kings are starting to assault on the left-hand side of the Metro Terminal, making their way towards the Genestealer Cultists. At the same time, Scream of the Emo is trying to scramble his forces to the Metro Terminal in order to get to the top floor in order to save his leader, who's currently engaged in close combat with Blitzkrieg Bob. At the same time, he also has Artemage, his ganger, armed with a mining laser, kind of overwatching their relic over on the right-hand side. And that pretty much makes up turn number 1. So with turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and both Scream of the Emo and Brother Grim roll off for initiative to see who goes first. So we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and the Goliaths manage to get the initiative on this one, so Brother Grim activates Blitzkrieg Bob, who then once again launches his attacks directly into Obed Marsh. Not only does he manage to hit him as well, he also managed to put 2 damage on him, 2 injuries on him. He put another flesh wound on him, as well as a serious injury onto Obed Marsh. So now Obed Marsh is laying on the ground, bleeding out, right at the feet of Blitzkrieg Bob. So at the end of the phase, at the end phase of round number 2, he will need to roll up on the serious injury table to see exactly what happens to him, whether he goes out of action, stays seriously injured, or worst case scenario, gets another flesh wound and he automatically goes out of action. So things are not looking very good for Obed Marsh at this point. Meanwhile, Innsmouth does manage to escape pinning, getting back on his feet again and taking cover behind the ambulance, as you can see in this photo. And once again, Brother Grim starts taking the offense again, leading the charge with Trip the Shrimp. Trip the Shrimp actually spends a regular movement moving forward, so that would take an aim with his stub cannon, and he opens fire directly into the red faction. Unfortunately for him, though, his shot does go wide, doesn't manage anybody. And that's because he's got a ballistic skill of 5 up. So not to be deterred, my friend Scream of the Emo then activates Johansson, who opens up with his auto gun, manages to fire 2 shots directly into Trip the Shrimp. Of those 2 shots, he does manage to hit him once, but unfortunately for him, though, he failed to wound, so because that Trip the Shrimp is currently pinned, laying face up at the ground, facing upwards. And with a roar of anger directly at the red faction, my friend Brother Grim then activates Stuka, who then moves up a normal movement allowance, opens up the stub cannon directly into Johansson. Not only does he manage to hit that guy, he also managed to wound him as well. They end putting him out of action, putting a critical injury roll directly onto Johansson. So at the end of the scenario, my friend Scream of the Emo will have to make a difficult choice whether he wants to shell out cash to save his friend, or to let him die, or take a risk and try to recover. So because of that, that's the first one getting knocked down for the red faction at this point. In response, Scream of the Emo then activates Pikmin, who does a normal movement allowance around the MCI terminal tower, and he opens up with his auto pistol directly into Stuka. Not only does he manage to hit him, he also manages to wound him and put him out of action as well, putting an enfeebling injury on him, making him toughness 2 now instead of 3, losing 1 point of toughness from that. And he will also go to recovery as well. Once again, Brother Grim then activates Grizz, who then also activates the Headhunter, and both these guys take aim with their heavy bolter as well as last gun directly into Artemage across into the Alexander's department store, and once again both of their shots fail to connect. Our friend Scream of the Emo then activates Simon Black, who spends a double movement moving up to the 2nd floor of the Metro Terminal, trying to make way to the roof in order to save his leader from Blitzkrieg Bob. And once again, my friend Brother Grim decides to start moving forward with the assault of the left-hand flank. He moves up Rager, normal movement allowance, has to open up with a solid slug from a shotgun. Unfortunately for him, though, he does miss his shot, so because that Pikmin is completely fine. And then Scream of the Emo then activates Artemage, who then has him spend a double movement dropping down to the ground floor to start making his way to the left-hand flank in order to secure the advance that's coming down that side from the Pelago-Slam Kings. Our friend Brother Grim then activates Flesh Stick, who then spends a normal movement allowance moving forward to take aim with his stub gun with dum-dum rounds, and not only does he manage to hit Pikmin, he also manages to wound him as well, putting a serious injury on him. So because of that, Pikmin is now laying on the ground, bleeding out, vulnerable for anybody to charge up against him, and to also finish him off with a coup de grace. And since the most of Red Faction has been activated, the rest of the turn is dedicated to the Pelago-Slam Kings. Brother Grimm then activates Porter as well as Gage, who then also pass their ammo checks with the very first of their actions, manage to clear new ammo for their bolt guns, and they move forward their normal mood allowance of 4 inches forward, so that way they can catch up with the rest of their posse that's leading the advance on the left-hand flank. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the top of the end phase, and we roll for injuries. And as at this point that of course the serious injury takes place, he goes out of action for Oben Marsh, suffering a grievous injury, so because of that he will go into recovery and miss out his next battle report, earning another additional experience points for Blitzkrieg Bob for putting a leader out of action. And to make matters worse, Pikmin is still suffering from a serious injury, so because of that he's still laying on the ground and he is still bleeding out, and that pretty much ends round number 2 for this scenario. So with that takes us directly to the end of the game with a victory for the Goliaths or the Pelago-Slam Kings, and the reason why is because my friend Scream and Emo decided to call the game at this point because he doesn't want to risk losing any more members of the Red Faction that he already has. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we go directly to the after action report, we go to the post game, and talk about exactly what happened to each of the gangs, because this battle report is now officially over. So first of all, we're going to talk about the Red Faction real quick. They did suffer 2 injuries, Oben Marsh as well as Johansson. Oben Marsh suffered a grievous injury, while Johansson suffered a head injury, losing 1 point to his intelligence and to his will. For advancements, Armitage did level up to level 2, earning himself a +1 to his toughness, so now he's toughness 4, making him a little bit more dangerous. From their territories, for the Red Faction, for their settlement, they earned 1 point of reputation as well as 30 credits, and also hired a new Neophyte Hybrid from that settlement. From the Mining Works, they earned 2 points of reputation as well as 60 credits, and from the Rogue Dock Shop, they managed to stabilize Johansson, fixing him up with a head injury instead. So originally Johansson had a critical injury, but because they have a Rogue Dock Shop for their territory, he ended up getting a head injury instead, so he goes into recovery. And then finally, from the Refuge Drift, they also managed to earn 35 credits. At the Merchant, they actually have 125 credits from their territories, as well as 15 credits from their stash, giving them a brand new total of 140 credits in total. They recruited 2 Neophyte Hybrids named Black Marsh and Reed, and they both armed those guys with auto guns as well as auto pistols. For their reputation, they earned 3 points of reputation from their territories, rum from fighting against the Pelago-Slam Kings for the very first time. However, because they lost his battle report, their relic was defiled, so they lose 2 points of reputation. They also balled out as well, losing another point, giving them a grand total of 23 reputation in total. Their new record now is at 3 wins as well as 2 losses, and their new rating is at 1,815 points. And finally, for the Pelago-Slam Kings, who ended up winning this scenario, they actually only had 1 injury, that was Stuka. He suffered an enfeebling injury, having -1 to his toughness, and now he's toughness 2. For advancements, Fleshstick leveled up to level 2, earning himself +1 to his movement allowance, so because of that, Fleshstick now moves 5 inches. From their territories, their settlement, they earned 1 point of reputation as well as 50 credits, and they also recruited a brand new Juve. From the Promethean stash in the tunnels, they don't earn any additional income. However, they did manage to capture a fighting pit, which also gives them 2 up reputation, which is also cool too, because that means they could also bring in 2 scum, hive scum, whenever they want to, whenever they fight. So that makes the Pelago-Slam Kings just a little bit deadlier. In the Merchant phase, they earned 60 credits from the scenario as well as 50 credits from their territories, earning 110 credits in total. With that money, they equipped a newly recruited Juve named Stinkum, and they equipped him with Furnace Plate, a stub gun, as well as a maul. And they also recruited a brand new ganger named Stink Gum, and they equipped him with Furnace Plate, stub cannon, as well as a stub gun. For the reputation, they earned 3 points from their territories, 2 from the scenario, as well as 1 from fighting against the Red Faction for the very first time, bringing their reputation total up to 22. Their new record now is at 3 wins as well as 2 losses, and their new rating is at 1,517 points. So that's good to do for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the greatest news about the hobby aspect of our channel. That's good to do for this one, you guys. You guys stay classy. We will catch you guys on the flip side. Peace out.